So, hi everybody. I'm Paulette Goudge, originally from the UK, just outside London, but have been living in Nicaragua, in the Mariposa, for 16 years now. I'm the founder of the Spanish School, Eco Hotel, and many of the projects of the Mariposa as we know it today, and still the director of the above. So way back in the 1980s, when many of you probably weren't even born, I first came to Nicaragua on a political tour organised by a group based in London, because I was interested in seeing what looked like, and indeed was in my experience, a really powerful grassroots revolution. So I was here for 3 weeks, was incredibly impressed by what I saw happening here, although the levels of poverty were something I had never seen, and I was a social worker in the UK, so I know something about poverty, but it was really beyond anything I'd ever seen. And the level of resistance of people, given that they were also fighting a 10-year-long war against effectively the US, although it was called the Contra War. So I went back to the UK really heavily impacted by what I'd seen and experienced, and really pissed off at myself because I couldn't speak a word of Spanish, so I couldn't actually communicate with anybody I met. So I came back for 3 months to try and learn some Spanish myself, and ended up staying for on and off nearly 3 years. And during that time, in 1990, I adopted my daughter, Guillermina, who was orphaned in the Contra War, and I was volunteering in the children's centre where she had been placed. So, because she needed very specialist medical help, particularly and also I was a social worker and I couldn't earn a living here in Nicaragua, we returned to the UK and stayed there for about 17 years. During that time, I did a PhD looking at issues around development and aid in Nicaragua, and coming to the conclusion that a lot of development and aid is operated in such a way that it's really reminiscent of the colonial era. It's basically white Westerners knowing best, making all the decisions, always having the advice. The problem is always in the third world. It's never in the first world. The first world has the solutions, the third world has the problems. And I really got to doing quite a lot of reading around that, particularly Latin American authors, obviously, and thinking about that. And that theme, together with the fact that Guillermina started to really not enjoy being in the UK, she was the receiving end of a lot of racism, both very overt racism and more subtle forms. And I learned a lot about racism from being a white mother of a non-white child.
Well, probably because when I had problems in England, I was in school, and then when I left school, I was treated differently than all the children. So, I normally play on my own. Normally, all my life I've been playing when I was little, not now, but before in the past.
And so, for various reasons, we decided to give up everything in the UK and sell our little house, and come back to Nicaragua and see what we could do differently to the normal kind of way of doing development and aid.
Well, when I first came, I didn't know any Spanish. I only spoke English, so I didn't speak any Spanish until now when I went to school here in the Mariposa.
So we built the hotel and the school as a way of trying to generate income and generate employment, which has always been a big idea of mine, is to try and help a community through creating sustainable jobs. And in our case, it also achieved the objective for me of bringing in money from the developed world to pay for Spanish classes and staying in the hotel and so on, to help the community. And so in a way trying to repay a little bit of the debt that in my view the first world owes the third world for all the materials we've taken cheaply and cheap labour and so on and so forth. So that all came together in the Mariposa in 2006 when we built and opened Mariposa.